Hello, I'm Sorry Pierce, and my Art 111 final is on a Norman Rockwell painting titled Breaking Home Ties. Here it is. You might recognize this painting, or a painting looking somewhat like it, since the artist was one of the most famous American painters of the 20th century. That artist's name was Norman Rockwell. Throughout his career, Norman Rockwell painted many paintings that became very popular. He painted about everything from the racial tensions during the 1960s to American culture during the times he lived in. Some of his other works include The Problem We All Live With, Murder in the Mississippi, New Kids in the Neighborhood, and The Runaway. The name of this particular piece is called Breaking Home Ties. It was first published on September 25th, 1954. It premiered on the cover of the Saturday Evening Post, which was a magazine that Rockwell illustrated for. The medium is oil on canvas, like most of Rockwell's work. And finally, the dimensions are 44 inches by 44 inches. Now for the content. This is just what is literally depicted on the canvas. I'll get to the representation of the content later. First, the painting depicts a father and a son who are waiting for a train. The son is dressed in a fine suit with college symbols on his luggage, so we can assume that the train is coming to take the son away to college. Next, they're sitting on a black pickup truck. The truck also seems to be damaged. Finally, there is a dog leaning on the son, completing the family element of this painting. You can see the objects I was describing just now here. The white suit of the boy, the State University symbol on his luggage, the dog, and the pickup truck. Now, for the not-so-literal content of the painting. Here we are concerned with iconography. Iconography is a study or description of images and symbols, a system of visual images widely understood by a given culture. The given culture in this scenario is American culture, and the symbols are the things I'm about to point out to you. The things that I think have a particular meaning specifically in American culture. Those images are the dog, the pickup truck, and the father and son. First, the dog. I would argue that dogs, especially their roles in families, plays a big part in American culture. The idea that the dog is another member of the family is prevalent within American culture. Here in the painting, the dog takes his place next to the son just like the father is, hinting that the dog is an equal part of the family. Not to mention, there have been many dogs that have played big parts in American culture throughout the mid to late 20th century, including Lassie, who bears a striking resemblance to the dog in this painting. So in essence, the entire family is here to see the son off to college, minus the mother, which I find peculiar, and I'll get to why that is later. On to the second image, the pickup truck. Now when I say that the pickup truck represents an aspect of American culture, you might scoff at me, but think about it. Where do you often see pickup trucks? Or rather, in what parts of the country do you see pickup trucks? If your answer is anything like mine, you would have said that most pickup trucks are found in rural areas, areas where the majority of jobs involve at least some manual labor and the need to haul items. You can see this with the clothes that the father is wearing and his calloused hands. To me, the father's clothes look like those of a mechanic, and that's definitely a job that requires manual labor, at least it used to be during this time period. Now back to what I was saying about this painting being set in a rural area. To me, in a rural area during the mid-20th century, leaving for college in an urban area would have been a big deal, hence why the son is dressed in his Sunday best. I mean, he's only getting on the train now, he's not actually at the college yet, and to me, getting on a train is not a reason to dress up, unless the act of doing so carried a more cultural importance than it does to me now. That importance suggests the time period and setting in which the painting takes place, which is mid-20th century rural area. Up next, the final image, the father and son. I would argue that the relationship shared between a father and a son is something that has been prevalent throughout American culture for a while now. All you have to do is look back to one of the most popular television shows in American history, The Andy Griffith Show. One of the show's main themes was the relationship between Andy Griffith and his son Opie. Throughout the series, Opie would make some sort of mistake, and Andy Griffith would come along and teach Opie about some sort of moral lesson to be learned from the mistake. For example, Opie in one episode shot a bird, and at the end of the episode, his father taught him a moral lesson about why shooting birds is not right. In the context of this show, Andy Griffith was a sort of teacher to his son. In essence, this was a reflection of the cultural views of America towards the relationship a father and son should have. A father was supposed to be a teacher toward his son. He was supposed to teach him right from wrong, or how to be a man, if you will. The relationship between a father in this time period was considered sacrosanct. So, getting off the subject of fathers and sons, I want to talk about how I find the lack of a mother peculiar. And you can factor in the whole father-son dynamic I was just talking about, but I'm talking about it from a more historical / economic perspective. In the period I suspect this painting takes place in, mid 20th century, um, a man could work a steady job, for instance a mechanic, and make enough money to provide completely for his family, to where there didn't need to be a second household income like there needs to be now. He could buy a house, buy a car, and provide for his wife and kids through the work he put in at his job. And that's why I don't think there's a mother in this painting, because the artist is trying to illustrate why, or rather that the father is one of the main reasons why the son has his opportunities now, because the father put in day out hard work to get his son to do better things. And that really is why I think this painting heavily ties in with the idea of the American dream. The American dream is the idea that through pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, by working hard as an individual, you can make it in America. You didn't need society to bring you up. You could do it by the sweat, by your own sweat, blood, and tears. I think this painting represents that, because the father's calloused hands, his downcast expression, his clothes all represent his job, and that he works super hard. Probably, maybe even to the point to where it's negatively impacting him, just so his son can go off to college and do better things with his life. Excuse me. Excuse me. Not necessarily the same form of the American dream found in like the 20s, or the works of Horatio Alger, where you could work and get yourself up to better status, more that you could work and secure a better future for your offspring. But nevertheless, a form of the American dream, in my opinion. I also think that this picture represents an example of Americana. Americana are the materials concerning or characteristics of America, its civilization, or its culture broadly, things typical of America. And the American dream has been something that's been constantly referenced, I'd say, within the past 150 years, 200 years. Again, here's the painting. You can think over what I was just saying. For the connotation of the painting, the connotation is the meaning associated or implied by an image. The meaning implied by this painting is that hard work pays off. Again, the American dream, and the father's hard work securing a future for his son. Palette. The palette is a range of colors that an artist chooses to use. This painting heavily features usage of earthy colors such as brown. The painting looks very gritty. And I think the usage of the color brown also plays into the fact that it's from a rural area, because you see more earth in rural areas than you would urban areas. Simultaneous contrast. Simultaneous contrast is the property of complementary colors when placed side by side to appear more intense. The clothes of the father, the expression of the father, and the expression of the son and clothes of the son contrast those specific colors and expressions greatly. So you notice. This is one of the first things you notice when you look at this painting. That contrast also represents the difference between the lives of the father and son. Finally, this work is representational and is not abstract. It's the opposite of abstract. It portrays natural objects in easily recognizable form. You can easily see this. Anybody looking at this would be able to tell what it is and note the color differences and how the white seems to shine brighter due to all the earth colors around it. Finally, chapter placement. I would place this painting in chapter 25 of our textbook. Chapter 25 is concerned with cultural identity, and you can tie this back in with how I thought certain things in this painting represented certain aspects of American culture, specifically the American dream, which is a distinctly American idea. Conclusion, Breaking Home Ties is a painting that represents the American dream. I've already laid that out. The painting also is a fine example of Americana. And overall, I really enjoy this painting because it represents something I believe in, the American dream being that is being the American dream. Thanks for listening. It's probably hard for you since I'm stumbling over my words, but, well, thanks anyway. Good luck with your grade on your guys' final projects. Hope you all do well, and thank you. Thanks for listening.